All right. On a Thursday, January the 8th, Bill Gunner, Captain David Air. We're still waiting patiently the return of Tyler Head, who is out battling the voice. The voice injury is beating him. It is winning. So hopefully we'll get him back next week and get him back into the fold and get him going. But for today, it is just myself again and Captain Dave. We got another loaded lineup for you. We'll get you set. College football playoff tonight. I've said it a couple times. I'm happy about this. I'm ready to see what we got. Mississippi and Miami tonight. The storyline that is Mississippi. Can they keep this run going without Lane Kiffin? And that's a great storyline. And I think somewhere along the line, Lane Kiffin is becoming more of a villain with every win that Mississippi picks up. And Mississippi becomes, at least for right now, a little bit more of America's team. Now, I'm interested in this. Somebody hit me up over the weekend and said they despise Mississippi. They don't want any part of them. Want to see them lose. Want to see them get just bludgeoned by Miami. I don't feel that way, and I don't know how people tonight will consume this football game and take it in and who you will be rooting for. Because as I said yesterday, it's easy to not like Miami. You don't even have to have lived the 80s and the 90s to not like Miami. That is an unlikable bunch. No offense, Miami fans. You kind of are proud of it. You kind of wear that with a badge of honor. As I say that out loud, you just had a Grinchy type grin come across your face, and you're like, "Yeah, we do. We're bleep holes. We're jerks. We are. That's who we are. We're arrogant and we're cocky and we're coming to kick your bleep, and that's who we are. That's who we've been since the 80s. We don't want to be liked, and it's easy. It's easy for a lot of us out there to look at Miami and be like, "Yeah, we don't like you. This is ridiculous." And then just in case you were on the fence, just in the event that you weren't real sure if you wanted to pull for this Miami team, maybe they were becoming a little likable. Michael Irvin steps in to make sure that the arrogance, that the cockiness, that everything about Miami was full-fledged 2025 with BTA. Belt to bleep. Michael Irvin is a sideshow unlike anything I've seen on the sidelines of any football college program. And it's entertaining. But it's annoying. But you know what? That's what makes college football good. Having a good villain, having someone to root against. You don't have to like Mississippi tonight to get excited for that game. You just need to dislike Miami. And I think, aside from Notre Dame, maybe Miami universally is the team we all love to hate because of the arrogance, because of the success, because of the cockiness, because of the fact that you're pretty unaware that anybody's a Miami fan unless they're winning. Literally, have you ever seen a Miami fan when they're 7-5? I mean, they're like the snowbirds that go down to Florida and hang out and hide. When Miami's 7-5 or 6-6, you literally don't see anything. You're completely unaware that they're even that they're an athletic program. Oh, but they win. When they win, their starter jackets from the 90s out the wazoo. There's gold chains everywhere. People are breaking out gold teeth. There's people holding up their fingers trying to explain to you what the U is. Uncle Luke is singing rap songs left and right. Miami's easy to dislike universally. They're up there with the Yankees. I think they're up there with the Lakers. And in college football, they are there with Notre Dame. So tonight, I think, has prestige to it. It has a fun element because you can pull. I think 803-404-6100 this afternoon if you want to weigh in as we get you set for college football talk. I think it's easy to pull for Mississippi right now. Right now, it's easy to pull for Pete Golding. Right now, it's easy to pull for Trinidad Chambliss, for Kejuan Lacey. It's easy to pull for this Mississippi team minus Lane Kiffin. And it's easy to pull against the University of Miami, which makes tonight a lot of fun. I kind of pull him. I kind of want Miami to win because I want to do this again for the national championship game where we're pulling against Miami. Miami's fun to dislike. So we'll talk college football playoffs tonight. Indiana, Oregon tomorrow night. That'll be a great game, I think. I'm hoping for a good game. Don't really have a dog in that fight. Indiana's becoming a little annoying. A little annoying. I think there's an element of being a South Carolina fan where I'm looking at Indiana like, if you can do this, why can't I do it? Why do you, what's happened here? Why do you get to have fun and I don't? What makes you so special? What makes Kirk Cignetti so special? Why did you get to pick the coach that apparently is the evil genius in Kirk Cignetti, and why can't we? So I think there's becoming a little bit of jealousy on my part with Indiana and how quickly they turned this thing around. And not only how quickly they turned this thing around, but how it looks sustainable. It doesn't look like Indiana is a flash in the pan. Like, I kind of feel like Vanderbilt's a flash in the pan. I feel like Vanderbilt next year goes back to 6-6, 7-5. I don't think they'll ever go back to true doormat status under Clark Lee as long as he's there. But it feels Vanderbilt that moment that this was a magical year, whereas Indiana's obviously having a magical year. But I kind of look at it, whereas I'm like, all right, probably going to see Indiana back here this time next year. Probably they are here to stay to be a part of the Big Ten for a while. And it's an odd feeling to be accepting of that. And again, as a South Carolina fan, I sense a twinge, if you will, of jealousy. You guys stink. You're worse than us. Historically, you're worse than us. And look at all the fun you're having. It looked really fun out at the Rose Bowl. I want to be a part of that. I want to do that with my team. I want to enjoy that. So a little bit of jealousy tomorrow night when I'll watch Indiana and Oregon, and that might lead me to pull for an Oregon-Miami national championship game because I feel like, again, Miami and pretty much Indiana or anybody is easy to root against Miami. So what is your preferred national championship? Do you care? I'm interested in that because this college football playoff last year, there's nothing that would have that I could have cared less about at this point in January than the college football playoff last year. And it was strange, and I felt bad about myself for not caring last year. And it was you had Notre Dame and Penn State and Ohio State. I can't even remember the fourth last year off the top of my head. And it felt like too much football. It wasn't enjoyable. Whereas this year, and again, I don't know how you feel about this. I'm interested to hear some opinions. 803-404-6100. I'm interested to hear opinions on, like, if you're invested, are you in, or you out, or I'll flip over, I'll catch a quarter. If it's a good game, I'll stay tuned in. If it's a bad game, where are you with this college football playoff? Because it does feel like by the time we circle back to next year, or we come full circle to next year, we probably will be talking about a 16-team playoff. But college football playoff gets going tonight. Got a lot of discussion about that. Coming up here in about 22 minutes, Joe Madden will join me. She is a betting expert. We've obviously always had Brian Edwards on. He'll be on tomorrow. But to get in someone for today, Joe Madden with Wager Talk and with Betting Pros will join us. And you can hear what she has to say and break down the angles. We'll also get into Wild Card Weekend. You can follow her on Twitter at Joe Madden Sports. Check that out. Give her a little follow and check out what she's got to say, and she'll join us and break everything down coming up at 12:30 today. 1:15, Brad Crawford will join us. Now, he does have an article that I want to get into, ranking college football's top coordinator hires. He's got Kendall Briles at number 9 for South Carolina. He's got South Carolina with the number 9 hire in college football this offseason. He says after a 4-8 finish, Shane Beamer made a home run hire for returning quarterback Lenore Sellers and wideout Nick Harbor. Briles brings former TCU offensive line coach Randy Clements with him, and the pair has already cleaned house up front with expected portal reinforcements on the way. Briles' scheme previously produced big numbers at Arkansas with K.J. Jefferson, a signal caller with traits similar to Sellers. Beamer on Briles said this is not on-the-job training. When you talk about someone that has done it in this league and done it in other conferences at a high level, has done it with multiple personnel, different styles of quarterbacks, it's really impressive. That's what Brad Crawford had to say as it pertains to Kendall Briles, again, as he lists Briles the number 9 coordinator hire of the offseason in college football. Jason Beck, new offense coordinator at Michigan, coming over from Utah, number 1. Buster Faulkner, new Florida offense coordinator, coming over from Georgia Tech, number 2. But we'll talk with him and also get his take on the college football playoff getting set for tonight and tomorrow night. And then coming up at 2:15 today, Jeff O'Hara. You probably know him on Twitter as Cox by 90. He'll join us. There's an incredible event taking place this weekend. We're still in loss of one of our favorite Gamecocks, Steve Taneyhill. Time passes, memories don't. And Steve was an incredible, incredible Gamecock. He was an incredible human being, whether he'd been a Gamecock or a Tiger or a Nittany Lion or a Seminole or whatever. He was an incredible human being. And we're going to honor him this coming Saturday downtown in 5 Points. There's a great event going on. You can come out and join. Food, beverages, just a celebration of life, if you will, for Steve Taneyhill. And Jeff, again, you know him on Twitter as Cox by 90, one of the biggest Gamecock fans I've met and known. Devotion and love for the university. Second only to the one and only Gamecock Larry, who I know's smiling down when you think about it, when he thinks about a true Gamecock and Steve Taneyhill. Jeff will join us and tell us all about this event that you can come to. I'm going to be there after the South Carolina-Georgia game, and it'll be the Steve Taneyhill Celebration of Life. It'll be down in 5 Points. We'll let you know more about that from 4 to 10 coming up on Saturday. It'll be a group therapy, CB18, Breakers Live, music, food, stories. Come out and remember Steve Taneyhill. Legends never die. Legends, memories never fade. Legends never die. And we're going to honor Steve this coming Saturday. Good buddy Jamie Bradford will be down there. It's going to be a lot of great Gamecocks. So we'll tell you about that and what's going on this coming weekend with that great event. And Jeff will join us coming up at 2:15 today. So we got a busy show. A lot to get to. College football playoff in full effect. We'll get back into the transfer portal. Whew, felt like South Carolina took a day off yesterday. It felt like for 24 hours, there were still visits happening. There were still things taking place. But it felt like for 24 hours, the wheels of motion slowed down just long enough for us to catch our breath. For poor Chris Clark and Wes Mitchell and for Helma Granahan and for all the people doing this, it felt like for 24 hours, they got a slight reprieve. They got a chance to, spend time with those people known as their family and not worry about commitments. That may change, while we're on air today. Might have changed. I didn't look in the first 13 minutes we started the program. To be honest, in my drive down here, in my few minutes of taking time to just kind of assess myself and get prepared for the show, I didn't even bother to look. So there's a 40-minute window that I've missed where, for all I know, all kinds of things have happened. Who knows? You never know. But we'll get into the transfer portal. The DeMond Williams situation at Washington continues to be one of the more fascinating transfer sagas. We'll talk about that today. We'll keep you updated. Some former Gamecocks have made announcements on where they're going. I'm interested to hear your take. Boaz Stanley, Jalen Brown, Kason Henry, all going to Power 5 school, Power 4 schools, all leaving the University of South Carolina, going to Power 4. They're not going down. We'll talk about that. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on anything this afternoon. We'll come back, get back into a little bit of the transfer portal and get you some updates where things stand today, where some of these players are heading. Coming up at 12:30, Joe Madden Sports. We'll catch up with her. We'll talk about her from Wager Talk and Betting Pros, the college football playoff, and from Betting Pros and Wager Talk coming up at 12:30 today. You're listening to the Halftime Show. It is 12:20 on your Thursday, college football playoff Thursday. It's a set of the start of a great run. Like, we have great runs from August to December of college and NFL football. Great weekends, right? We have those, but this is so meaningful. And as I was saying in the previous segment, to me, and I can only speak for me. I get to hold the mic, but you guys can text in or you can call in. I'm invested in this college football playoff. I love what we got going. So unlike last year, where I was kind of like, whatever. This year, appointment viewing tonight. Ready for 7:30. And when I say for the gunner, when I say appointment viewing, that means there's some kind of food that's going to be picked out by like 6 o'clock so that I'm having a nice meal while watching the game. And I'm excited about this game. A couple of y'all are weighing in. Because, again, I think there's actual legitimate rooting interest in here. You don't have to have grown up a Mississippi or Miami fan. It's easy to dislike Miami. No offense, Miami fans. It's just easy to dislike you. And I think it's easy to pull for Mississippi. Jacob weighs in. He says, I want Mississippi to win tonight because I don't like Kiffin. It bothers him watching them win without him. So there's a storyline right there. That makes it great. David weighs in and says, give me Oregon and Ole Miss for the national championship. I hope Ole Miss wins it and then refuses to give Kiffin a ring. That would actually be kind of funny. Got to get on board with that. So, there's storylines. And then we're going to go into Saturday in the wild card weekend and get the Panthers-Rams. I think the Rams are going to destroy the Panthers, by the way. It's going to be a beating of epic proportions. Remember, I don't like the Panthers, but I am happy that they're hosting and in the playoffs. It's a very weird conundrum that I'm in right now in terms of where I stand with the Panthers and them actually being in the playoffs. But Packers-Bears on Saturday night, that's easy to get into. One of the long-standing NFL rivalries that'll be in Chicago. It'll be freezing cold. You got Caleb Williams, who is, if you're not paying attention, Caleb Williams is becoming the gunslinger of the NFL. More good things happen now when he's throwing the football than bad things, but still, when he throws it, you're kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen. That's going to be really fun. 1 o'clock on Sunday, Bills, Jags, Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, this is his window now wide open. No Patrick Mahomes, no Joe Burrow, no Lamar Jackson. Is this it? Is this where Trevor Lawrence steps out into the spotlight, rips open the shirt with a super L on his chest? Could be good or bad. L for a loss or L for big Trevor Lawrence. Josh Allen, it feels. I talked with Eric Edholm. You can go back and listen to that on our podcast page from yesterday about that. It feels like it's now or never for Josh Allen and the Bills, quite frankly. Like, do it now or don't ever do it. Dismantle, go enjoy your new stadium that's going to be nice and warm in Buffalo, and just get the heck out of the way. That's what it feels like for Buffalo. No KC, no Baltimore. Cincinnati, really, I know they've made the Super Bowl appearance with Joe Burrow, but, it feels like everybody's out of the way. This is it, Josh. This is your chance. 49ers, Eagles, that's a traditional rich playoff game. That's going to be a lot of fun. You got so many just fun storylines this weekend, and it gets going tonight. 803-404-6100. Again, how you can weigh in. Texter weighs in and says, I think other coaches are looking at our line transfers and thinking I can do much better with him than Teasley did. I expect a couple to go to G5 schools. Definitely expect Tree, Kaysen Sharp, and Thompson, if he ends up leaving, to stay Power 4. Well, thank you for setting me up there. Kaysen Henry has now committed, I guess, whatever they do in the portal now, to Louisville. So you know where he's going. Nick Sharp, who didn't play much, didn't really contribute a whole lot this year, went to Michigan State. Boaz Stanley going to Purdue. So South Carolina and Purdue complete, your traditional college football trade. We get Hank Purvis. Thank you, Boilermakers. They get Boaz Stanley. Both players, both linemen on their third school in 4 years. I don't know who won that trade just yet. We'll find out later on. But Boaz going to Purdue, Kaysen Henry going to Louisville. Reports out there, I haven't seen it substantiated, confirmed, but I'll go with reports. Dad, Josiah Thompson could be taking a visit to Georgia. Look, Josiah Thompson was not good this year. I'm not trying to defend Josiah Thompson this year. I'm not trying to tell any of you that Josiah Thompson was one of the best tackles on the team, on the South Carolina team. Definitely not in the SEC this year. But I am telling you that the young man is talented, and that I really would prefer Randy Clements be the guy working with him, and he be on the South Carolina roster. And there's reports out there that he's going to go visit Georgia in the coming days if he's not there today. Again, nothing substantiated that I've seen in the last hour. But there are reports of that. Trevon Ball, we know, has committed and signed, I don't know, whatever, to Texas A&M. And Tree Babalade followed Lonnie Teasley on out to Nebraska for more bad coaching. And I agree with the texter on this here who says, it's probably bad. I am of the opinion that it is bad coaching, that Lonnie Teasley was not a good offensive line coach. And I'm also of the opinion that the scheme did not suit the players. And so that's why I have said losing Trevon Ball, Tree Babalade. I mean, I'll throw Case and Henry in there. Look, you guys say a texter weighs in and says Case and Henry is no loss. I kind of agree with that, but I was against Case and Henry because I thought Tree Babalade was better. You lose Tree Babalade, and I kind of like Case and Henry. It's all irrelevant now. You got who you got or who you're going to work with. South Carolina's waiting on Bryant Williams, who visited Florida State. He's the 6'7", 315-pound offensive tackle out of Louisiana, who's now at Arkansas taking a visit. So you're waiting on him. The Gamecocks have landed a couple offensive linemen. I mentioned Hank Purvis, Carter Miller, another offensive lineman from Central Florida, is an interior guy. South Carolina does have on campus today Seth Smith from Northern Arizona. I don't know how good these guys are. I mean, look, we've seen guys transfer up from smaller teams and be successful. Torricelli Simpkins comes to mind. We've seen guys transfer from big programs and not be successful. So I have no clue. And anybody out there that's trying to tell you, yeah, that could be pretty good, I think that's a good pickup. I like that. I mean, I like the pickups. Don't get me wrong. I like Jordan Thomas within reason. He's a project, and I like what he could be, and I like that he has eligibility, but I don't know how good he's going to be. Carter Miller and Hank Purvis, okay, cool. They're big. Hank Purvis, like 365. He's a tank. Like 6'4", 365. Somebody's got to run a legitimate circle to get around him. That's a start. But how good, I don't know. How good could Seth Smith be? 6'6", 285, according to 24/7 Sports. He would have 1 year of eligibility left. He's already visited James Madison and Northwestern. He's on campus today. Look, get the dude in here. I don't care what his credentials are, who he's visiting, who likes him, whatever. All of them have to compete. You got to get 6 or 7, and they got to compete with the guys you got on campus. And then Randy Clements has got to go, I like those 5. Let's go with those 5. I don't care which 5 they came or where they came from. Those are my 5. That's how it's going to work. 803-404-6100. Let's get back into some college football playoff discussion. NFL wild card. Joe Madden of Joe Madden Sports. You can check her out again on Twitter. Again, at Joe Madden Sports. She joins us next to give a good breakdown of the college football playoff and of wild card weekend. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air, where right now you're probably not thinking about your heating and air unit. It's nice. Weather's actually pretty tolerable right now. Not too hot, not too cold. Heating and air unit, not something that's on the forefront of your mind. But guess what? We've still got those incredibly cold Columbia nights coming. You know what I'm talking about, the nights where it gets down into the teens and we're not really prepared for it, and you better hope that your heating unit is working effectively. And don't forget about the summer. Don't forget about the summer. You guys, if you've never been in a Columbia summer, boy, are you in for a lovely treat if you're just moving here. Make sure your heating and air unit is working properly by contacting AAA Heating and Air. Now, they came out to my house about 5 years ago, put a brand new heating and air unit in, and it has worked like a charm. And they have got some incredible incredible deals ready to help you out. That's right. Don't wait another day. Call AAA Heating and Air, where, one, they have guaranteed financing. You heard that right. Guaranteed financing. You don't have to worry about that. And then also a 15-year parts and labor warranty. So don't wait another day. Contact AAA Heating and Air today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. .34 on a Thursday, January the 8th, getting you set for the college football playoff tonight. As I said, easy. Easy. I've grown up. Doesn't help. I've mentioned him 2 or 3 times this week. My brother-in-law is a huge Miami fan. Love him. Great dude. Love him. Thankfully, he lives in Raleigh and probably doesn't listen to this radio program because by now I'd have gotten a text or a phone call. But they're easy to dislike. They're obnoxious. They're arrogant. Miami's easy to dislike. Mississippi's kind of easy to like right now. Lane Kiffin's a jerk. They sent him off to LSU. Joining us now to break it all down, to give us some great picks and to give her views on it, Miss Jo Madden. You can check her out on Twitter at Joe Madden Sports is the way to do that. Miss Madden, welcome in this afternoon. I know you were ready for the next 4 days. What I just labeled on Twitter is the best football weekend of 2026. It's only the second weekend of 2026.
Only the second weekend, but absolutely going to be the best football that we're going to see of January. So I'm excited for it for sure.
Yeah, and make sure you check her out. Wager Talk and Betting Pros is where you can get her advice. And let's jump into it tonight. Mississippi and Miami. How do you break this game down? So you put out a tweet a little bit a while ago. How do you analyze this game? Carson Beck, this is a huge opportunity for him. Trinidad Chambliss is still making a name for himself. What do you like in this game? What do you like with the line?
This is going to be a great one here. You look at Carson Beck, and I think he's going to actually have to pass this ball more than people are expecting here for Miami. Chambliss is absolutely magic out there on the field, and he's going to push Carson Beck and Miami into a situation where they're pushing the tempo. And I know Miami has such a solid front seven, and everyone keeps talking about this front seven and how they're going to get to Chambliss, but he's going to be able to find a way to get past that front seven, hit the secondary here of Miami, and put up the points. So Carson Beck's going to have to answer back. And I'm not sure that Miami, even with all the weapons they have, will have an answer here for Chambliss. So I'm looking at Ole Miss plus the 3.5. I'm going to sprinkle on that money line. I think we're in for some magic tonight out there on the field.
Okay, 3.5. Over under set at 52.5. I'm looking at DraftKings right now on ESPN.com, and you say Mississippi money line, Mississippi plus the 3.5. Let's go to tomorrow night. Oregon and Indiana. I think this has a chance to be the great game of the weekend. This was a phenomenal game out in Eugene back in, I believe it was September is when they played. That was the game, Joe, that Indiana finally caught my attention. I said, okay, I believe now. I did not have them going out to Eugene covering that particular weekend. I think they were a 6.5-point dog, let alone winning the game outright. They went out and kind of proved me something. Was that the weekend where you sat up and took notice of Kirk Cignetti and the Hoosiers, or had you been a believer prior?
You know, I hadn't been a believer prior. I was exactly the same as you. I couldn't believe what we saw out of them in that game, and I think we're in for a huge one here in the Peach Bowl. You look at both of these teams, and you look at the elite quarterbacks on both sides. Both of them expected to go top in the NFL draft, with Mendoza here for Indiana and then Dante Moore for Oregon. And when I look at these two quarterbacks, I got to go with the quarterback that I think has more poise in the pocket, has more poise under pressure, and it's Dante Moore. I think Oregon has every ability to pull off the upset here.
Okay, you're going with Dante Moore on that. I thought when you set that up with more poise, I thought you were going Fernando Mendoza. We've joked around here, I have, regarding Mendoza in some of these post-game interviews. Yesterday, he was kind of talking about monopoly, I believe, in one of the media sessions there. What has been your stance on Fernando Mendoza, watching him grow and develop this year in the spotlight?
He's absolutely fantastic. You look at him, you look what he's been able to do this season. He's thrown for 3,172 yards, 36 passing touchdowns. And while I do think he is going to be such a strong quarterback in the NFL, I think in this game, with the emotion he wears on his sleeve, that's what worries me a little bit. If Oregon's defense can get to him and rattle him, I think that emotion is there, and that's why I also look at Dante Moore, and I think he can pull this one off because you don't see the pressure get to him as much as you do see Mendoza feeling that pressure. So he's a great leader. He won the Heisman for a reason, but I just think the emotions, the heart on the sleeve there, it can work against a quarterback, and I think in this situation it's going to. You look at Dante Moore and his ability to even throw that ball on the pass when that pressure is coming at him at full speed is fantastic. You don't see many quarterbacks out there. It reminds me of Patrick Mahomes' kind of style of ability out there. So I think we got fireworks, elite quarterbacks on both sides, but I think the Ducks, with their only loss to this team here in Indiana, will get revenge.
By the way, don't hesitate because we're about to fire through the NFL. If you don't have a particular play on one of the next five, just say, hey, pass. I'm not taking that one. Don't like that line. Don't like that team. Don't like that. Don't feel like you have to give me a pick on each and every one. We're gonna hold you accountable. We're big on accountability around here. As you'll learn. Very accountable program is what they could consider us. Joe Madden joining us this afternoon. Follow her on Twitter. Incredible follow at Joe Madden Sports is how you can do that. She's got a great little thing out if I can get to it in time. If you haven't seen the news, Mike McDaniel with the Dolphins fired this afternoon, and I was driving when I saw you post it, so I haven't had a chance to listen. But the Dolphins firing their coach. You can go and check that out on her Twitter page as well. And again, she's at Wager Talk and Betting Pros is how you can get all the information from Miss Madden. Let's go to the NFL. I have said it out loud. I'm not a Panthers fan, and I don't even like the Panthers, even though they're an hour and a half up the road. But I am happy that they're hosting a playoff. Something about it feels right for me. The Rams are a 10.5-point favorite. I think the Rams stomped the Panthers. The Panthers are 8-9. Frankly, Joe, they don't deserve to host a playoff game. They're not a playoff team, but rules are rules. They're in it. Your thoughts on Rams, Panthers, Saturday afternoon? Should be in the rain up at Bank of America.
Yeah, you look at that last game and how the Panthers were able to get the win because Matt Stafford turned that ball over twice. That's something we don't see out of Stafford. And he's looking to get that MVP award, and I do think Stafford takes out his frustrations off that last loss. Here on the Panthers, even though we got some rain, I'm looking for this Rams team to run away with it. The Carolina Panthers don't deserve to be here, and I'm sorry, Panthers fans, they just don't, right? You go 8-9 on the season, you're hosting a playoff wild card game. Yeah, they don't deserve it.
It's okay. Nobody down here is Panther fans either. It's that we don't claim them here.
Yeah.
And we're all over the state here, but nobody in this state claims the Panthers. They're really the Charlotte Panthers. So over under on that game 46.5. Again, according to DraftKings 10.5. Miss Madden goes with the Rams as well. Love the night game. I'm a Packers fan. Sterling Sharp, Brett Favre, Robert Brooks, the whole 9 yards for them. They go to Chicago, but the Packers can't run out of the locker room though without sustaining a serious injury. I'm becoming more and more of a Caleb Williams fan. Chicago is a dog at home. Packers 1.5 in a game that should be nice and cold, 8 o'clock. That game, by the way, for those of you wondering, only on Amazon Prime. Your thoughts, Miss Madden?
Well, you've got Jordan Love returning here for the Green Bay Packers after missing a couple of games. And while he might get off to a slow start, I do trust in the Green Bay Packers to get it done, but this isn't going to be an easy game for them. The Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams have a never-say-die kind of attitude, and we've seen how many comebacks this season with him on that final drive being able to get things done. I'm looking at this to be a higher scoring game, that total of 45.5. I'm taking to the over, and I'm expecting both of these quarterbacks to throw a couple of passing touchdowns out there as well, which you're getting great plus money on both of them to be able to do. So I think this is a back-and-forth battle, one that the Green Bay Packers have every ability to win, but Ben Johnson has something really special there with the Chicago Bears. I'm a buyer, too, on Caleb Williams. I love what he's been able to do, but when push comes to shove, at the end of the day, I just don't trust that defense. Now, I know the Packers have, lost Micah Parsons. They've lost so many weapons out there. Josh Jacobs, I still don't think he's going to be 100% in this game, but I think they find a way to get it done. Jordan Love just can't turn over that ball. It will come down to those turnovers. Remember last year in the playoffs, it was Jordan Love, Sam Darnold, Justin Herbert, quarterbacks that hadn't been throwing those turnovers that just fell apart. So as long as he can keep his composure, the Packers can win.
We were so close. We were on the same page with so many games, and now I go Bears. Got about 2 minutes left with you. Real quick, give me your thoughts on Buffalo, Jacksonville, and San Francisco, Philadelphia on Sunday.
Ooh, Josh Allen needs to come out and be Superman in this one versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. You look at the Jags and how strong Trevor Lawrence has looked this year. I didn't expect this team to be here, and I look at this one, and while a lot of people think this is going to be just a back and forth, touchdown after touchdown, I think that 51.5 is a little high. I'm also going to look at the Eagles to cover the 4.5 versus the 49ers. Both of these teams beat up, but I think the Eagles start to establish a stronger run game, something we haven't seen very much of this season. Barkley just hasn't looked like himself, but I think against this 49ers team, they can get a solid run game going, open up that pass action for Hurts, and dominate here the 49ers at home.
Real quick, I give you first future stock on Drake May or Caleb Williams. Who you taking?
Drake May. Give me Drake May all day long. I love what he's been able to do. Mike Vrabel has him absolutely clicking.
We talked with Eric at home of NFL.com yesterday. He was very high. I love Drake May. I watched his brother Luke when I was covering basketball recruiting. You going Patriots 3.5 on Sunday night?
Chargers are my team, so this one really hurts the heart here. No, I'm going to grab the Chargers plus the 3.5. I'm taking my bias out of this. If this defense can really come up solid, I think we got a lower scoring back and forth a defensive game between these two teams.
Joe, I appreciate it. Look forward to having you on again in the future. Follow her on Twitter at Joe Madden Sports. A lot of great insight. Thank you so much this afternoon.
Crush it, you guys. Thank you for having me.
Take care. Joe Madden Sports. Follow her on Twitter. We'll come back, wrap up hour number 1. It's the halftime show. Thank you again to Joe Madden for joining us, her first appearance here for me, and phenomenal. Did a great job. If you missed any of that, we'll get it back up on the podcast page. You can hear her picks for the weekend and specifically for tonight. She says go with Mississippi and even says sprinkle a little bit of the cash on the money line. Rebels plus 3.5 against Miami tonight. And she brought up that point, the Miami, really front seven, but the two bookends there from Miami. How does Mississippi try and handle them and contain them. And we'll talk more with Brad Crawford coming up in about 25 minutes, more specifically on the game and situations like that for tonight. Pete Golding and his squad they've got their work cut out for us. I think this is a good Miami team. I thought they were a good Miami team. I thought they were a good football team. I don't know if I thought they were this good. I thought they deserved to be in the college football playoff. I thought Notre Dame deserved to be in the college football playoff, quite frankly, but I also didn't really want to see James Madison and Tulane in, so that's a whole different kind of story that we're discussing there. But I thought Miami was deserving. I can't say that I thought Miami would make a run. Yes, I thought Miami would beat. I think I picked them to beat Texas A&M. I did not have them beating Ohio State, so they've gotten a little bit further than I anticipated. Mississippi, kind of the same thing. I did not think they would beat Georgia last week, and testament to that program, to Pete Golding. It feels to me like a situation. Larry Coker-ish, Chad Holbrook-ish, name the guy coming in to replace the guy. And I know Lane Kiffin didn't win. I mean, he won football games, but he didn't win anything. He didn't win an SEC championship. Obviously, there were no divisional titles, or there haven't been now for 2 years for him to win, and didn't even win a college football playoff game. So it's not like the guys that I just mentioned with Tanner and Larry Coker in particular, but you're still replacing a legend there that had elevated Mississippi to a whole different level of football, to a different tier. And Pete Golding seems, at least now, last week is the one that caught my attention, the Georgia game, not the Tulane game. I still had Mississippi winning that one, covering the spread quite easily. But, beating Georgia was not in the cards, and the way they did it also was just flat out impressive. They seemed to out physical Georgia. And one thing I'll say about Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs, the talent can go up and down a little bit for them. Not that it drops drastically, like outside of the top 10, but they always play a physical brand of football. And when I watched that Georgia-Mississippi game, it actually felt like Mississippi was the more physical of the two football programs last week in that particular bowl game. So we'll see where it goes tonight. At 3.5 again, Joe goes with Mississippi. I just kind of lean with the favorite. If I was going to take this game tonight, I'd probably take Mississippi with the points, but I kind of lean Miami to get the victory in this game. Carson Beck seems to play with a level of competence right now that I don't know if he's always had. He's got great players around him. He had great players at Georgia. He's got great players at Miami, slightly better players at Miami than he had at Georgia, I believe. But he has done a better job, I believe, of settling in and letting his playmakers go out and do what is necessary to win the football game. And he'll be expected to do very similar tonight in that particular game. The key to me is who runs the football better tonight. When you talk about these two teams and what they do, you look at the way Miami was able to run the football effectively down the stretch of the Texas A&M game, and I don't know if you would label their particular running back to be under the radar, but you look at Kawan Lacey for Mississippi, and I feel like he's a bigger piece to the puzzle for what they're trying to do, that if they can't get him going, if Mississippi cannot get Kawan Lacey in that running game going, if they become one-dimensional, I feel like they're in a little bit more trouble than Miami is. Whereas if Miami, I feel like, Mark Fletcher is very, very solid, and he had 947 yards running, but I feel like Miami can beat you in a few different ways, even though Trinidad Chambliss is more of the running quarterback as opposed to statue legs Carson Beck back there. But Beck, you look at it, 27 touchdowns on the year, 10 interceptions. He was sacked just 13 times. Offensive line for Miami, very, very good. And I mentioned Mark Fletcher just under the 1,000-yard mark, 947 yards and 10 touchdowns on the season. Again, I'll take Miami to win the game. I'll take Mississippi to cover the 3.5. And then we'll talk about Indiana, Oregon a lot more tomorrow. Miss Madden, again, went with Oregon, for those of you that missed that, and we'll put that back up on our podcast. It's hard for me to go against Indiana. I've gone from 0 to 100. I went from, I don't think they can do it, to I'm pretty sure they're going to do it they're going to take everything. It just feels like they've become the juggernaut of college football, and I have to accept it. Now, generally speaking, for the record, when this happens, go against me on this. I usually tend to be a little bit dramatic, overreactive, and I feel like I'm leading myself down that path with the Hoosiers. But we'll talk more about it coming up at 1:15 today. Brad Crawford will join us. 2:15, Jeff O'Hara, Cox by 90. We got a great event coming up this weekend. We'll tell you about that as well. 1 o'clock on a Thursday. Captain David Dare, Bill Gunner. I think we'll get Tyler Head back on Monday is what it's looking like. He is probably out tomorrow. If we had a show injury report, we'd list him as doubtful for tomorrow. Right now, he's fighting that the little voice injury. It's not an injury, but coming off of a little bit of a sickness last week. He's that's why if you've listened to the 9 to 12 show, from what I've been told, he's not been speaking. But he's healthy enough to be here in studio. He just can't provide much input because, well, I'm not sure if you're all aware how Sports Talk Radio works, but you really got to be able to speak. And if Tyler can't do that, kind of renders him useless. So he is working to get the voice back, doing all kinds of rehab. Dave, did you hear one of our engineers, Randy, out there today giving him the I have never heard of this, and I love our engineer, Randy, best engineer in the world. Some call him the best ever that's ever done it. He makes the station sound incredible, does phenomenal job. We are very appreciative of Randy, but Randy comes up with very odd health information to if you're suffering from some kind of illness, and random illnesses, by the way, not oh no, I got a cramp in my leg, but Randy comes up with some odd stuff out there. Did you hear what he was telling Tyler to do tonight to try and get the voice back?
What are you telling?
Did you hear it? I
No.
want to know if you heard it. Because I was listening because it sounded so disgusting. But at the same time, I was trying to get in here to do the show and not leave us hanging because no sound on radio doesn't work quite the way people would expect it to.
Engineers are like root doctors, you know.
It was something like cut up an onion, peel an onion, put it in a jar with sugar, basically let it sit that it turns into some kind of, he said put something else in there. Again, I was trying to listen almost through the door because when he said onion, I tried to walk away. And then when he said sugar and started trying to explain it, I was trying to keep one ear in the conversation and get my body physically over to the desk. But it was let it turn into a sugar, and then you add there was one more ingredient that was getting added to this onion sugary syrupy mix, to which then Tyler was to drink.
Wow.
If he walks back by, grab him and get that recipe from him. We'll share with the audience.
Probably like Spock's eyebrows or something.
I don't know if we have a voodoo witch as our engineer or what. Again, phenomenal. Stations never sounded better. Signal's incredible. Great people around the state with Florence and Myrtle Beach and Charleston, and Randy makes it all go incredible. We wouldn't be where we are without him. I don't know if we want him running around giving out healing advice to people.
No,
he does. He's great at what he does. Huh?
We could have a segment on your show, Randy's weird fixes. Or
he gave me something I can't remember what I was dealing with months ago, and he grabbed hold of me in the hallway and was like, "You got to do this, and you take that, and lay this way or do something." I was like, "Oh dear Lord, I'll take my chances." And then look at me. But anyway, we'll get Tyler. I don't know whether he'll follow through on that. Tyler was going to the doctor last I saw, and whether he follows through on Randy's herbal voice concoction to get healthy remains to be seen. But we'll list Tyler as doubtful for tomorrow and expect to get him back on Monday so that he can. Poor Tyler, he tried Monday. He powered through. I was at the doctor and for an all-day doctor's visit, and he powered through. So kudos to him. Thankful to him. But he powered through for one day to knock himself out for 4 days. A true champion of our station and a guy who'll do whatever it takes to make things go. But we'll get him back. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. Thank you again to Joe Madden for joining us earlier in the program. We'll get that podcast up. She gave her picks for tonight. It's already up. It is already up according to Dave, so you can go and listen to that after our show. Do not listen during our show. Listen after 3 o'clock. But you can go and listen to that. But she gave her picks. Very knowledgeable. Very, very nice. Explained a lot. We'll have Brian Edwards on tomorrow to get some more picks as well from Vegas Insider. But you can go and listen to that coming up in just a little while. Coming up in about 10 minutes, Brad Crawford will join us, and we'll talk about the college football playoff as well. Also, we'll talk about this article he's got out. Ranking college football's top coordinator hires. This came out on Monday. Tuesday, January the 6th. It says these 10 coordinator hires are sure to make immediate impacts at their new jobs. His best hire on the coordinator ranks for the season, for the offseason, is Kyle Whittingham at Michigan hiring Jason Beck. And he says Kyle Whittingham is bringing his hot shot play caller to Ann Arbor as the first major acquisition for the Michigan staff. Utah ranked second nationally in rushing at 269.7 yards per game and fifth nationally in scoring at 41.1 points per game under Beck's tutelage. Whittingham has acknowledged Michigan's offense will employ a physicality-first mindset with everything beginning at the line of scrimmage. I think that's how most schools would like to have it. I know that's how South Carolina would like to have it. Crawford goes on to say if Bryce Underwood returns, and that is the expectation with Beck in tow, he will headline the Michigan offense. Also expected to re-sign ball carrier Jordan Marshall, several players up front, and wideout Andrew Marsh, amongst others. So his number one move of the offseason in terms of the coordinator ranks, this is again Brad Crawford, who will join us in about 10 minutes. His number one move was Kyle Whittingham bringing his offensive coordinator Jason Beck from Utah to Michigan. Number two on that list is one that South Carolina fans will see up close and personal in October, and that is John Summerall hiring Buster Faulkner from Georgia Tech. Buster Faulkner really, I think, has gained some steam there as being one of the top coordinators due to Haynes King. Now, that's kind of the one of the situations. Yeah, Buster Faulkner might be great. He might be. I don't know. But Haynes King was a different kind of quarterback. I don't know what kind of professional quarterback Haynes King will be, but he's one of those college kids. He has that college-style toughness and can run a college-style offense and go out and bang around and run the football, but also throw the football. Crawford says about the Buster Faulkner hire, John Summerall swiped Brent Key's top assistant from Georgia Tech for one of the splashiest coordinator hires in the new-look SEC. The Yellow Jackets averaged a school record 6.98 yards per play this season, with Faulkner calling the shots through veteran quarterback Haynes King. Says Georgia Tech fielded the ACC's second-best rushing attack at 197.5 yards per game, an area Summerall wants to dominate in Gainesville, and finished amongst the league's top tier in both total offense and scoring. Crawford goes on to say Faulkner also brings SEC experience, having served as offensive quality control assistant under Kirby Smart from 2020 to 2022, overseeing the development of Stetson Bennett as part of two national championship teams. I think it'll be fascinating. Look, Haynes King, again, as I mentioned, there's sometimes I wonder, was it the quarterback? Was it the coordinator, development? Was it play call? What exactly made someone excel in a particular situation? My personal opinion, I'm going to side with Haynes King making Buster Faulkner look better than maybe Buster Faulkner really is. But we'll see. I could be very, very wrong on that. But I think Haynes King, was kind of one of those generational college quarterbacks that plays with that ridiculous amount of heart that he comes in and just, wheels his way. Connor Shaw, in a lot of different ways, they were similar and different, but reminds me of something like that where you could kind of tell Connor Shaw wasn't going to be a professional quarterback. He got the one start with the Browns, obviously, in his 1 year with them. But you kind of knew that Connor Shaw was limited in what he could do professionally, but you knew that if you'd have put him on a college football field, your chances of winning were darn near close to 100% because he just had that personality and he had that college ability that's a little bit different than the NFL in that. Number three on the list. Oh, you guys are going to love this one. Oh, boy, are you going to love this one. Number three, according to Brad Crawford, in terms of coordinator hires, how about old Will Muschamp to Texas? That's right. Will Muschamp back in the coordinating game. He will be the DC for the Longhorns. Crawford says Steve Sarkisian tapped the former Texas defense coordinator, returned to the 40 acres, and fixed issues on his side of the ball. Muschamp left the Longhorns for the Florida job in 2010 and later led South Carolina before spending the past few seasons on Kirby Smart's staff at Georgia. Crawford labels Muschamp an elite recruiter and defensive mind, and if Sarkisian stays out of his way, he should maximize a talented roster that includes returning superstar Colin Simmons off the edge. Muschamp's return should allow Sarkisian to spend more time focused on the offense with Arch Manning back under center. Certainly for me personally, and I think for a lot of you, there is an element of, okay, what's going to happen with Muschamp back? Love to have the guy back. Super nice guy. I always thought he was a great guy. one of a kind. Didn't work out here. Don't know why he was never a great head foot. Have theories on why he wasn't a great head football coach, but that's number 3. Number 4, South Carolina will face the 4th best coordinator hire in the offseason, according to Brad Crawford. Jim Knowles, defensive coordinator, the new hire. He comes from Penn State, originally from Ohio State. Well, he's originally from Oklahoma State, then went to Ohio State. Now he is at Tennessee. Crawford writes, the Vols moved on from Tim Banks after his 5th season, turning to Knowles, who directed Ohio State's elite title-winning defense in 2024 before a forgettable campaign with the Nittany Lions. Knowles' scheme is relatively simple, built around putting playmakers in position to execute rather than overwhelming opponents with complexity. So Tennessee, number 4 on that list with the hiring of Jim Knowles. Number 5 on the list, I don't know how you would feel about this one. Charlie Weiss Jr. going with Lane Kiffin to Mississippi. It does feel like this is an opportunity for Charlie Weiss Jr. to kind of showcase his ability outside of Lane Kiffin at Mississippi and what he is really capable of calling and doing, where we know, that's Charlie Weiss Jr. Oh, Charlie Weiss Jr. called that play. That's not Lane Kiffin. Who called that play? I think that was Kiffin. Okay, no, that might have been Charlie Weiss. There have been some rumors and reports that the New York Giants front office may ask of whomever they hire to incorporate Charlie Weiss Jr. into the coaching plans so that he can reconnect with Jackson Dart, who is his quarterback, obviously, at Mississippi. At least that's been some rumors. Nothing substantiated in that, but just an FYI, if you keep an eye on what Lane Kiffin's trying. It feels like Lane Kiffin's not getting that thing off the ground as fast as he wanted to, maybe as fast as he thought. That obviously, I guarantee he didn't think Mississippi would still be in the playoff. There's no way he thought Mississippi would still be in the playoff at this point. And it feels like doesn't mean he won't get it going. Doesn't mean that 4 weeks sets the entire program back for 4 years. But there is an element of feeling, to me at least, that the Lane Kiffin era, the wheels are still kind of on the ground in Baton Rouge, that they haven't taken off quite like they've thought or expected over there with him doing that. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. Those are the top 5 hires from Brad Crawford in the coordinator segment of the offseason. Kendall Browse was number 9, and we'll talk with him a little bit about that, plus some college football playoffs when we return. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. You heard that right, Mid-State Roofing. You know them, the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry for over 30 years. That's right, 30 years of being the leader, and they do it not just because they're phenomenal, not just because they keep your roof protected from leaks, keep your home and your business protected and dry and running, but because of their customer service. They are there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are ready to help you at 2 a.m. Because if you've ever talked to a leak, it doesn't tell time. It doesn't know when it's going to start leaking. And therefore, in a situation like at 2 a.m., you got a rainstorm that's happening. Now your roof is leaking. You got to call Mid-State Roofing. And guess what? They're going to answer the phone call. You're going to speak with an on-call technician. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. Give Mid-State Roofing a call today. Set up a maintenance contract and tell them Bill Gunner sent you. We have gotten to the bottom of our engineer Randy's voodoo cough congestion herbal recipe. Onion sugar is all it was. Yellow onion in a bowl, glass bowl. He was very specific when I asked him in the break. We're efforting Brad Crawford, by the way. Is that right, Dave? We're efforting? Oh, we have him. Okay, I'll get to him in just a second. I'm not going to. I do want to come back to the Randy's herbal throat congestion medicine here shortly. Yellow onion in a glass bowl. Key is the glass with sugar. Let it sit.
Is that clear glass or can it be like green glass?
He's right out in the hallway. It's good question. We want all the true details. Brad Crawford, you ever heard of this congestion? You're doing TV. Every time I turn on the TV now, Brad Crawford's there. Wake up in the morning, Brad Crawford's face on. Go to bed, Brad Crawford's face on CBS Sport. Brad Crawford, 24 hours a day. How you doing, young man?
I'm doing good, man. I do, man, to stay away from flu during this season, I use zinc and vitamin D, sunshine. So far, so good.
Zinc and vitamin D. That's why we're about 7 years away from me going further south, Key West.
Yeah, man.
I'm starting to put in work requests already. Let's talk a couple things. Lot going on. But let's start real quick. You got an article out from Tuesday on CBS Sports ranking the college football coordinator hires. I just went through the top 5. Your thoughts real quick on let's go to number 2, Buster Faulkner. I question Buster Faulkner. When you got a quarterback like Haynes King, I tend to lean, is it more Haynes King than Buster Faulkner that makes one or the other look good? I go Haynes King made Buster Faulkner better.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, especially when you have a, like you said, veteran decision maker who makes all the right plays, knows where to go on third down, makes the play call look a lot more better when you have a quarterback who is seasoned like that. I do think his hire at Florida is a big one for John Summerall. He's changing his philosophical approach a little bit offensively. He still wants to be a smash mouth, physicality first type offense, sort of like what Utah is going to run with, Kyle Whittingham. Michigan's going to run with Kyle Whittingham now running the show. But I do like this hire for Florida. It's important they get the right quarterback. I know they signed the backup from Georgia Tech. Don't know if he's going to be a Haynes King caliber player. He probably would be playing at Georgia Tech had he been better than Haynes. So developmental prospect, but Florida still needs to hire find a major quarterback in the portal.
Yeah, how do you, real quick, you're throwing me now off my game. It's a great point you made. How do you see this transfer portal quarterback rotation settling right now as we see some names? Sorsby now going to Texas Tech. The DeMond Williams situation's wild and woolly. DJ Lagway's being linked all over the place. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, I think it came out earlier that the DJ Lagway is going to sign or he's about to sign with Baylor. Which shows me that the stock on DJ Lagway fell a little bit. Tennessee obviously is hosting Sam Leavitt either today or tomorrow. They're trying to get him out of Arizona State. He's been to LSU. LSU's in the DeMond Williams sweepstakes. But I tell you what, man, if LSU does not sign a top-end quarterback, I think it lessens the win total a little bit in Lane Kiffin's first season. I think he was confident that he would land Trinidad Chambliss after he got another year of eligibility from the NCAA. Of course, that waiver has not come out yet, and Chambliss is staying with Ole Miss. So a lot of musical chairs still have to happen, but I think right now a team like Texas Tech, while they overpaid a little bit, probably has won the portal sweepstakes at the quarterback position. And,
Lenore Sellers has got to make a lot of improvement, but I think that's why – you look at it and you're like, man, I'm glad we didn't lose him. I'd rather have the surefire thing than go out and try and compete on this dating app known as the transfer portal quarterback rotation and trying to find one.
Yeah, it's funny. I spoke to a Power 5 head coach yesterday who just lost a playoff game, and he told me that this portal cycle is a lot like speed dating. You don't have time to recruit these guys. You get them one time on campus, you got about 3 hours to watch film, and you better make the right offer or the higher paying bid is going to win out. So I think for the Gamecocks, it was very, very smart of Garnet Trust and, all of the NIL collectives there in Columbia to wrap this thing up with Lenoris really before Christmas. And it happened before the mass exodus of O-linemen. But you wrapped up your 3 best players returning in Nick Harbor, Lenoris Sellers, and Dylan Stewart. And really in the SEC, there's not a lot of programs who can say, that they've been able to retain their three best players on offense.
Your take right now, almost a weekend. Well, I guess we're getting close to a week. How South Carolina is handling the portal so far from what you're kind of seeing, and maybe your expectations for, what is it, about the next 11 days, I believe? Is that about right? Next 7 days, something like that?
Yeah, I'm still a TBD on giving out a final grade here. I think the Gamecocks have had a lot of big names on campus that maybe have not been reported, been a little bit of secretive around it. I do think they're going to be able to find some really good players at left and right tackle. That they're going to sign some starter caliber guys out of the portal. I'm surprised that as many O linemen left the program the last couple of weeks as they did. But that being said, Bill, I mean, it was the worst offensive line in the SEC the better part of the last two seasons. So, why not just change the entire position group with different players and, see how it turns out for Clements, the new O-line coach?
Yeah, maybe. I'd have rather had Clements coaching those guys than to lose them. And you go into the portal, it's the same thing. And, Brad, I know you've heard kind of the same thing that I have, that figures, regardless of position in this portal, are insane. People. I mean, this is not how it should be, and I don't know if this will be the situation. Do you think this is the year that changes things, or is it just blowing smoke into the wind again, and there's no change at all after this?
I think, Bill, that we're going to see at least a change in the college football calendar. We may not see how revenue share and these NIL deals are handled this 2027 cycle next year, but I do think we're going to see a change in the calendar. A lot of coaches have told me, man, while the transfer portal is wild and unsustainable, it's actually college football's calendar that is giving them the biggest headaches, during December. And you've got coaches trying to still prepare for football games, yet trying to secure and retain talent. It's a nightmare for those guys right now, but to be honest with you, I don't feel sorry for them because the average Power 5 head coach is making $6.5 or $7 million a year. There's a lot worse things you could be doing than coaching football, making that kind of money.
Sports talk radio. They could be doing something. They could be washed up 43-year-old sports talk radio host.
Exactly.
Totally understand. Tonight we get the college football playoff going. Brad, I'm excited about this. I love the. I don't know why. Last year I didn't care. I was checked out at this point. I thought it was too much football. I didn't enjoy what was going on. This year, I'm fully invested. New teams, new blood, new storylines. Maybe it's Mississippi and losing Lane Kiffin. Maybe it's the fact that, as I've said multiple times on this program, that Miami's easy to hate. Maybe it's that I'm becoming jealous of Indiana for their turnaround. I'm not sure. I'm excited about the next two nights in particular. Your thoughts on the college football playoff, what we have here in front of us in these two games?
Yeah, people love parity, and I think both these games the next two nights, Bill, should get great ratings. I mean, because you've got, four teams that most have not won out championship in program history, and they've got a legitimate shot. I think it's anybody's game right now. Ole Miss is kind of the underdog. Obviously, Lane Kiffin's not there. They've got a Division II quarterback who just signed a probably record-setting deal to come back next year if he gets that other waiver. So I'm pulling for Ole Miss in this Final Four, but I do like the idea of, a potential 16-0 Indiana number one team, since that Big Ten championship win over Ohio State. What Kirk Cignetti has done has been just super impressive, and it would not surprise me if eventually NFL types start calling Kirk.
Did Indiana, I asked this, I had Joe Madden on earlier to give some picks. I pointed out, to me, Indiana caught my attention when they went and beat Oregon out in Eugene. Is that when were you on the Indiana bandwagon prior, or was that the game where you said, Kirk Cignetti and the Hoosiers are the real deal?
Yeah, I thought Oregon would win that game by a field goal, and for Indiana to not only win by double digits at Oregon, but to shake off a pick six from the Heisman winner early in that game to win. I mean, that's insane. You stop a 16-game winning streak on the road that Oregon had, and then really since then Indiana hasn't missed a beat. They had that comeback win at Penn State. I know Penn State wasn't very good, but to do that with next to little timeouts left and make as many plays as they did, it showed me that this team is focused. A lot of folks took Alabama to beat Indiana in the Rose Bowl. I did not. I thought that'd be a blowout, and exactly what happened. So Indiana's the best team on the board, rightfully so, and it would not surprise me if they win the next two games. Is
Indiana sustainable?
Yes, unless there's mass NIL legislation and we get an actual cap. The rumor, the $20.5 million revenue cap deal, that's actually the floor right now. A lot of people call it a cap, but it's not a cap. Every Power 5 program has at least $20.5 million to spend on next year's football roster. So you've got some spending upwards of 35 to 40, and I think Indiana is now in that 6 or 7 team realm because of Mark Cuban. I mean, he's one of the billionaires along with Cody Campbell at Texas Tech. These are the kind of guys, Bill, that are changing college football, and they're doing so for some of the have-nots.
And we like that?
I guess if the Gamecocks had a billionaire, sure.
Well, and that's why, because, and I'm out of time. We're pretty much out of time, but I will marinate on this because what you just said. Everybody goes, well, wait a minute. And I said this earlier. Indiana's doing it. Why can't we do it? Why can't South Carolina do it? But you just gave an example of, okay, that's why. You don't have a Mark Cuban. You don't have a Cody Campbell. You don't have a Phil Knight. You can't do it.
Right. It's tough. I mean, there's of the power programs, I think Indiana right now, Oregon, some of these schools, certainly Ole Miss, they've shown the blueprint, but you have to be willing to spend money. And I think right now South Carolina's roster, it's going to be around $20 million, maybe 23, 24.5. But they've also got 6 or 7 teams on that schedule next year, Bill, that the roster's $9 or $10 million more than what the Gamecocks are going to be able to spend.
Brad, we always appreciate it, man. Great conversation. Enjoy the games tonight. Wild Card Weekend is going to be a blast. Always appreciate you taking time to join us, and look forward to catching up soon.
Yeah, going to be fun, man. See you.
Take care. Brad Crawford with CBS Sports. Phenomenal job. Great friend of the program. Always glad to have him on and hear his insights. We'll come back. That's triggered a conversation. Is it possible at South Carolina? You're listening to the Halftime Show. All right, in about 5 seconds, it'll be 1:35. How about that? On your Thursday, Bill Gunner, Captain Dave Adair. Big thank you again to Brad Crawford for joining us there. Coming up in 2:15 today, about 50 minutes away, Jeff O'Hara, Cox by 90 is how you would know him on Twitter, will join us. We're going to do a little tribute to Steve Taneyhill, and we're going to talk about a great event taking place down all in 5 Points this weekend that you can come out and join, free to the public, open to the public, and salute a great Gamecock celebration of life for Steve Taneyhill. And Jeff will join us to kind of give you a little more information if you want to come down after the basketball game and just revel in the life and times of Steve. But again, thank you to Brad Crawford. Thank you to Joe Madden earlier in the program for joining us again. She gave her picks for the games this particular weekend. Starting again, as I've labeled it, should have trademarked this. Best weekend of 2026 of college football. Without it, well, best weekend of football of 2026. Overall, college and pro. This is it. We're right here. Maybe one of those fall weekends will end up being better. But right now, absolute best weekend of football. Starts tonight, Mississippi, Miami, Indiana, Oregon tomorrow night. College football, NFL playoffs over the weekend. Panthers, Rams. Rams are going to stomp them. Eagles, 49ers on Sunday afternoon. Bears, Packers Saturday night. Bills, Jags is going to be really good. Best weekend of 2026 of football. And if you get the joke and you're like, Bill, it's only the second weekend, kudos to you. I'm glad you understand and get the program. 803-404-6100. Also, to recap and to finish this little duty up, Dave, we were going over this. If you were tuning in and you need to know because you got to know and you were listening and you want clarity, our engineer, Randy, best engineer in the world. Some say he's the best of all time. Well, Tyler's sick. Can't speak. And so earlier, I was out in the hallway. Tyler's been here from the 9 to 12 show. He's been producing. Given that he can't speak, he can't talk. Given that he can't talk, you hadn't heard him. Given that you can't hear him, you wouldn't know that he was here. But Tyler was here, and Randy was giving him advice on how to heal his throat and the congestion. 803-404-6100. What is your, I've never heard of this, go-to plan for healing yourself? Randy, our engineer, told Tyler to take an onion at home. Take an onion, he said a yellow onion, to put it in a glass bowl. Dave asked an important question. Is this a clear glass or is it a colored glass or what? But put it in a glass bowl and then put sugar on it and let it. Now, does an onion if you just let it sit? I don't know. I don't deal with onions.
Well, I love onions, but I know if you leave them in like the pantry and too long, they'll start growing.
They'll grow. Like a beanstalk? What do you mean they'll grow?
The top of them, green shoots will come out.
More onion? I don't buy onions. I don't deal in onions. The only time I have an onion is if it's on a hamburger that somebody is presenting me.
And if you cut an onion and you take the middle part, and plant it, it'll grow another.
Really? Okay. There's a lot of information being distributed on this program today.
Also, what about Vidalia onions? I mean, if you won't use one of those.
Don't ask. Randy's down the hall. But my question is does an onion just liquidate that fast? If you just put it in a glass bowl with sugar around it, is there something about it that within hours it now becomes a syrup? Maybe I should have asked more questions. 803-404-6100. Do you have some kind of I call this an herbal remedy. I walked in here earlier. Obviously, if you've paid attention to the news, the flu's going around or whatever. I don't know. There was on the floor behind me, there was 2 daytime cold pills. I don't know what's going on in the studio before I get here, but those 2 daytime cold pills on the floor. Clearly, nobody's listening to Randy's recipes around here. But yeah, onion. I mean, does it liquefy? I think that's the word, liquefy, within hours if you just put it in a bowl? Is that how it works? You say it grows if it goes. I don't know what's happening in your pantry. For all I know, your pantry's now become some kind of super special place to grow plants and pottery. And I don't know what, you're from the 70s, Dave. We're in the 1 o'clock hour. I can do this. You're from the 70s. I don't know what was happening in your pantry prior to you becoming a true adult.
Well, you're supposed to put the seeds in a paper towel.
Don't want to know. You know what? Now that I say that, I'm sorry I went down this path. I want to keep my job. What's your incredibly odd go-to remedy? 803-404-6100. So we'll see. We don't anticipate Tyler coming back tomorrow. He's on the doubtful list. And texter weighed in and said, how can we be certain that Tyler is actually sick? This is a good question, Dave. This pertains to you and I, okay? What I'm going to read here pertains to you and I. Listen closely. Because we've seen Tyler. How can we be certain that Tyler is actually sick and isn't hitting the transfer portal on us? That's from Reg. That's a good question. Have you investigated? I haven't asked him. I've been under the assumption. I'm naive. I'm like a little kid. I just believe whatever you tell me.
Yeah, me too.
I fall for everything. Oh, okay. We'll keep an eye on that. 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in. Texter weighs in and said, you see South Carolina Football Hall of Fame named their latest nominee list. Voting ends January 1st. They said Sheldon. You got to send me a little bit more of a information on that. Sheldon Brown, I assume. Corey Miller, I think. And Tony Rice. I had not seen that. I will look that up, and we'll try and get to that coming up. But I had not seen that, the South Carolina Hall of Fame list yet. I don't know if that's on one of the emails I've got. 803-404-6100. So the previous segment, we talked with Brad Crawford, and at the very end of it, Brad said something that triggered me. And earlier in the program, I was talking about Indiana. And I know I was joking, but I was being honest, too. That you look at Indiana, if you're a South Carolina fan, and you go, you stink. You're worse than us. Historically, we aren't good, but you're bad. You're worse than us. How, why, what's happening? Why are you undefeated? Why are you 14-0 and we are 4-8? Why are you, aside from hiring Kirk Cignetti, which now looks like one of the most genius coaching hires of all time, what are you doing that we simply aren't? And in the previous segment, and I've seen this, but I didn't register it until Brad Crawford said it. Mark Cuban is the money supplier, much like Cody Campbell is the money supplier. Like I registered with Texas A&M. Okay, Cody Campbell, this billionaire, is throwing money everywhere at Texas A&M and helping them, and they've got, the number 14 basketball team in the country, although they've been getting pretty good prior, and now they've got a football team that's in the college football playoffs. And you got Mark Cuban, who's a $6 billion man, is throwing money at Indiana. He's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He graduated from the Kelley School of Business at Indiana, and now he's kind of the front man for the and Brad Crawford pointed out that, like, with a Mark Cuban backing them, Indiana is now a major player in rev share and NIL, obviously, in college football, and so they have money to burn left and right, which has elevated them. Brad Crawford's words, not mine, into the top 5 or 6 in the country in NIL, which has put them where they're at. And South Carolina doesn't have that. And is that where we're at in college football? You got to have a Phil Knight. You got to have a Cody Campbell. You got to have a Mark Cuban that absolutely loves your team and has incredible money to burn to just light on fire and hand to 18 to 23-year-olds, I guess now. We're back down to 23. As I said, South Carolina can't do that. They don't have that person. Now, Georgia, I'm sure Georgia's different. Ohio State's different. Alabama's different. But it really got me thinking, like, if you're going to make the Indiana jump, because, again, as I said, historically speaking, Indiana's worse than South Carolina. I think Indiana's second all-time in terms of Power 5 teams with losses. So when some of you post on message boards or put on Twitter, well, Indiana did it. Why can't we be like Indiana? Well, all of a sudden the answer is because they have Mark Cuban and we don't. Not, oh, well, they hired Kirk Cignetti. Not because they hired what appears to be an absolute evil genius of a head coach. They did it because they got a $6 billion with a B dollar man fronting their operation. We'll finish this conversation and the hour when we come back. It's the halftime show. Our herbal remedies to cure the flu or whatever. Some of y'all are weighing in. Jacob says, Jack Daniels, you will forget you can't talk. That is true. That is true. I've never used it for herbal and for remedies. I have used Jack Daniels a time or two. And, yeah. Yeah, you can tend to forget you can't talk. It's a good thing. 803-404-6100. Text always in rye whiskey, cinnamon, peppermint candy, lemon. Heat slowly to mesh. Drink, turn up the heat, and go to bed. Hotter the better. Oh, okay. Appreciate that. Another texter goes in. Chop the onion. Let's see here. Wait a minute. Go back to this text. Chop the onion. Alternate layers of each. All right, Dave. Listen, Dave informed me, by the way, in the break. Dave, you said it turns out Randy's, world's greatest engineer, Randy's herbal remedy, onions and sugar, was used to take care of the plague back in the day.
Yeah, I'm not sure it worked, but yeah.
A bunch of people walking around with onion breath and dying of the plague.
Well,
sounds like you might have died from
them if they have onion breath, right? So
maybe that's why they stayed away from. Maybe that's why they survived the plague. You had onion breath and you didn't go around anybody. The text always in and says, chop the onion and alternate layers of each with honey or sugar, the top layer. Let steep, I guess that's, several hours or overnight. Strain out the onion, courtesy of AI on Google. Okay, all right. There's that. Take that for what it's worth. We like to be informative on this program. Going back to actual sports discussion, text always in. It says, I was one of the 5% that said no rules. NIL was going to be bad, but everyone was no, they need all the money because they are playing for free, not a fortune teller. We could see this coming a million miles away. Jay from the Interstate says, how long do these billionaires keep giving out millions? They don't get rich by giving it away every year. I mean, that's the thing. That is the true part of this. You don't have, I was reading an article the other day, I believe it was on The Athletic, that there are now a segment of upper echelon boosters that are growing tired of paying this money and basically getting no ROI, return on investment, on their product. And not only that, but seeing guys basically bolt without being able to hold them accountable. That's the other thing you got to remember. These billionaires, accountability 9 times out of 10, not every time, but accountability is pretty much everything to these people. And you get these like millionaire, ultra millionaires, these billionaires, and when they give money, again, not every time, but 9 times out of 10, when they give money to somebody, boy, oh boy, do they have expectations for what that money's about to be used for. And so you give some money to certain players, and said player, A, either doesn't perform, or B, turns his back on you and goes, that doesn't go over well. And it is interesting. It's a good question by Jay from the Interstate because, it's to each his own, right? Like, as long as Indiana is doing what they're doing, as long as Texas Tech is doing what they're doing, Cody Campbell and Mark Cuban are going to just, how much do you need? Yeah, checkbook's over there. Just grab it, write your own check, and fill in the top portion. 803-404-6100. Let's go to the phone lines. Jeff wants to weigh in on NIL quickly here. Jeff, how you doing? What's on your mind? Hello, Jeff.
Hello.
There you go. Go right ahead, my man.
I want to talk about the NIL. I think the NIL, and I understand where you're coming at with the Phil Knight and the Mark Cuban and everything, but what about Vanderbilt? I mean, I think it's hurting more of the big schools, Alabama, Georgia, Florida State, and helping the middle schools. And I think South Carolina eventually will get. And I think you just have to be a little patient with it, because I think they are going to put a cap on it. And like Notre Dame, just for Indiana purposes, if you're a high school player or a college player and you're going to transfer somewhere and you get equal money, but you're going to sit on the bench at Notre Dame versus getting on the field at Notre Dame, you're going to Indiana. And you're a good player. You just need an opportunity to show what you can do. And I think you're going to see more and more of the middle schools, and I'm not trying to pick on Carolina, but I mean, I'd say Carolina's a middle school, and Arkansas or something like that. I mean, Arkansas should be in there. They should have. They got Sam Walton money. I mean, Walmart money. Why are they not better?
Because they're not getting it. I do. You're right. You're 100% right. But they're not getting the donation that Mark Cuban. That's what I'm saying with Indiana. And thank you for the phone call. We got our top of the hour break coming up. But that's what I'm saying with Indiana. Like this money, this influx of money from Mark Cuban has changed what they're doing. Vanderbilt, I'm interested to see Vanderbilt. I don't know if a lot of people share this sentiment or not. I'm interested to see Vanderbilt because I give Diego Pavia more credit for the Vanderbilt run, and I do think I think Clark Lee's a great coach. I think that was a perfect timing, perfect storm kind of deal there. We'll see if they are able to keep that going to the level that it is. They've got the quarterback in Jared Curtis, a 5-star coming in. I'm interested in that. We'll talk more about this. Jeff O'Hara, Cox by 90 coming up in the next hour. We'll talk about a great quarterback himself, Steve Taneyhill. Final hour of the Thursday program. Bill Gunner, Captain David Dare, as we roll along. Remember tonight, some women's basketball, 7 o'clock at Arkansas. Now, listen closely so that I don't see any message board posts or Twitter tweets or X, whatever it is now. It will be on B106.7. Repeat, tonight's women's basketball game will be on 106.7 FM. Pregame at 6:30. Ball game starting at 7 o'clock at Arkansas. So tune in there, not here. So I don't want to see any message board posts on Gamecock Central or the Big Spur. Oh my God, 107.5 doesn't carry the women. They don't care about. No, it's on a different station. It's on B106.7, so you can listen there. Go there and listen. Women's game tonight. Gamecock's missing 3 players tonight. Chloe Kitts, the new young lady that has just come over. I'm not going for a name pronunciation just yet on that one. And then the Florida State transfer, who all of a sudden I went to say her name and it is completely blanked from my mind because I don't have it right in front of me. But they are missing those 3 tonight, and they will go on the road to Arkansas. And again, you can tune in and catch that on B106.7 tonight, coming up at 7 o'clock. 803-404-6100. Been a busy program. We talked a lot about the college football playoff that gets going at 7:30 tonight. Mississippi and Miami. The Rebels, a 3.5-point underdog. Joe Madden of Joe Madden Sports joined us early in the program. You can check that piece out if you missed it on our podcast page. I will retweet it later on this afternoon, but Miss Madden gave her picks. You can also check her out at Wager Talk and at Betting Pros. She gave her picks for both of the college football playoff games, for both of the Saturday NFL games, and for all 3 of the Sunday NFL games. She took Mississippi tonight, and she said sprinkle a few dollars lightly on the money line. So she's all in on the Rebels tonight to get the job done. Tomorrow night, she went with Oregon. She went with Oregon tomorrow night over Indiana. On Saturday, she likes the Rams plus the 10.5, and she went Packers. I go Bears. I think the Bears get the job done at home. Jordan Love's back, but man, I don't know. The Packers just I don't want them to fire Matt LaFleur, and I'll circle back to some NFL news in a minute. But it does feel like the Packers, if they lose on Saturday night, there's been grumblings and rumblings, and who knows what's true and what's not. But there has been some kind of like, well, is this the guy that we're going to continue to run our franchise through? Maybe he's not the guy to get the job done. And their window is always going to technically be open. They're the Packers. And maybe their window, it's not maybe, their window's been higher, ceiling's been higher, window's been more open, I guess is how you would say, at other points in the last 15 years, I think. But it's still, they're a team that's capable of winning a Super Bowl. But not with some of the injuries they got at this moment in time. I go Bears. The Bears. And not only that, I'm coming around on Caleb Williams a little bit. Like, I hate to make this comparison, because it's unfair, and it's a bit snarky, and it's a bit ridiculous. But I feel like Caleb Williams has a little Jameis Winston in him. Now, this year, only 7 interceptions. Much, much better. 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions for old Caleb Williams. 3,942 yards. He looks good. Maybe Ben Johnson is his saving grace. Maybe Ben Johnson is what keeps Caleb Williams from going down the wrong path here. And I'm starting to grow on Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson as a head coach is starting to grow on me. But it feels like Caleb Williams could go off the deep end at any time and has no problem having a 20 interception season. Like some of the throws he makes, but he's creative and he's fun. And I you know what, Caleb Williams and Drake May, like when we talk like truly young quarterbacks in this league, Caleb Williams, just 24 years of age, just turned it back in November. You know, Drake May is a very young quarterback. I do wonder after this season where I've watched more NFL, when you talk like legitimately young quarterbacks in this league, like I don't put Allen and Burrow and and Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes in that young category, if you will. Trevor Lawrence is like teetering there. I got to go back and look and see exactly how old Trevor Lawrence is now. But it feels like Caleb Williams and Drake May are the two, what we would label as the two true young dudes in this league that are about to take it over. And maybe we get years and years of Bears and Patriots. Probably not, by the way, but that would be really, really cool to see the NFC North and the Bears and the AFC East and the Patriots, a few years of Patriots-Bears. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But again, Bears and Packers on Saturday night in Soldier Field. And then Sunday, that 1 o'clock game, again, it's not old guard against new guard, I don't think. Let me go back and look. How old is it? It feels like Trevor Lawrence has been around, I don't know, for 15 or 20 years now because, he burst on the scene. For some reason, I don't know why, I was thinking back to that nice sunny day in April, the first time I ever saw Trevor Lawrence, and he came in. Clemson fans, I think this is my first memory of him. He comes into the spring game at Clemson and throws a bomb down the sideline, the right sideline, and connects with, I don't know, some wide receiver. And it was just, I know where I was sitting at. I was at a restaurant establishment on Lake Murray, and I remember very, very vividly, I remember thinking, that dude might be a problem. We might have Houston, we got a problem here. This Lawrence cat might be really good. Any odds he would transfer? And, of course, he never did. Trevor Lawrence is 26. He'll be 27 in October. But is this his window? This is a fun NFL discussion. Is this the window for Trevor Lawrence? No Patrick Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson. And the Lamar Jackson future now, as they try to find a coach, is really, really interesting to see what's going to happen there and how they want to really build that franchise around Jackson and what the next coach's qualifications need to be. Like, do you go with a defensive coach for the Ravens who gives you the guarantee of a fun, exciting offensive coordinator, or are you going with an up-and-coming, like a Ben Johnson-esque type coach? Will you, and I'll give you an example. Do you go with a defensive coach who then can get you a Mike McDonald, who is now fired by the Dolphins earlier today? Is that the direction you would want to go with it? But we'll see. But Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, that's going to be really fun to kind of follow and see what they do. And it'll be fun to see what happens with John Harbaugh, who is a coach that's going to be very, very much in demand. But, excuse me, I think I said but Mike McDaniel. Did I say McDonald? Matt McDaniel, the former Dolphins head coach. Now, and he's going to be in high demand as an offensive coordinator. I don't think as a head coach, but, what direction do the Ravens want to go after that? But going back to Trevor Lawrence and even Josh Allen, that's what makes some of these wild card weekend. This is what makes some of the wild card weekend a whole lot of fun, is the opportunity for some of these quarterbacks to step up and really establish their name this coming weekend. I mean, if we just go down the list, if you were just to kind of go down the list here and we talk about quarterbacks that are currently in the playoffs for the weekend, let's start on Saturday. That Rams game, old guard, Matt Stafford, really looking to finish out his career, win one more Super Bowl, place his name in a different, 2 Super Bowls, places his name in a different tier. He goes against Bryce Young. And do we really believe in Bryce Young yet? He's better. Good Lord, he had to be better than when he started, right? Of the NFL. But are you buying Bryce Young? Again, at the end of the day, the Panthers are 8-9. They have no business being in the playoff. They certainly have no business hosting a home playoff game. But they do. They've got it. That doesn't matter what I think. Doesn't matter what doesn't matter what the rules are. The rules are what they are, and the Panthers get a home playoff game, and they get the Rams, 10.5-point underdog. 49ers, you got Brock Purdy, who's trying to work his way up. You got Jalen Hurts, who's already won a Super Bowl and is now trying to put himself in another tier. You got the Packers and Jordan Love, and do we believe in Jordan Love just yet? I kind of got to admit, I'm kind of iffy on Jordan Love. I'm not saying he's bad. Just saying, I'm iffy on him. You start making me rank quarterbacks and put tiers in. Jordan Love is not as high on my list as a lot of people would have him. You want a hot take? I think this is a hot take. I could be wrong on this. I wish Tyler was here to have this conversation with. I think I'd take Caleb Williams over Jordan Love. Would you? 803-404-6100. Look at those. There's 6 quarterbacks right there. You go to the AFC. Justin Herbert's. Who's Dave? I hate to ask this because I feel like you know this. And I'm going to be slightly ashamed of you, Dave, but I feel like you know this better than I do. Who's Justin Herbert dating?
Justin Herbert is...
Oh, no, you're going to know.
He's Haley Steinfeld?
Madison Beer is what I'm reading.
Oh, okay.
I'm also proud to say I don't know who Madison Beer is. Rising pop star. Okay, got it. But anyway, Justin Herbert, I feel like, is more known for his luscious locks and his dating acumen than it is right now for being a quarterback. And he's a good quarterback, and then he's got Jim Harbaugh. But this is a chance for this is a chance for Justin Herbert to step and put himself in the limelight. Drake May, young quarterback, same thing. Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence. Again, I mentioned Trevor Lawrence is 26. That's still young in NFL years. Great opportunity here. C.J. Stroud and old guard Aaron Rodgers in the Texans and the Steelers. This is fun quarterback matchups. And each quarterback in a different way in these NFL playoffs has something to prove for themselves, whether it's Aaron Rodgers going out and trying to put a bow on his career or Bryce Young for the Panthers. I'm just looking at the 12 teams that are playing this weekend. You're ranking Bryce Young last, right? Didn't do this. This was not what I was prepared for, and I wish Tyler was here to have this conversation. But you would rank – I'm going to have to bring Tyler back in on this next week. But you would rank Bryce Young yet. But there's so much for each quarterback to prove. And that's really also a fun part of these NFL playoffs. I think it's going to be a great NFL playoffs. I'm excited about them. So college football playoffs tonight, Miami and the absolutely obnoxious Miami program and Mr. Michael Irvin, who's out there. He's got belt is already in hand. He's ready to whip a trash can. He's probably practicing somewhere as we speak. And Mississippi, who has become the adorable pet of college football because the mean, nasty Lane Kiffin ran off and left them. And then tomorrow night, Indiana and Oregon. And then you get these NFL playoffs. Absolute best weekend of football here in 2026. Coming up next. All right, we're going to remember Steve Tannehill. We've tried to do this a little bit, but Jeff O'Hara, his business partner, you know him on Twitter as CoxBy90. We're going to have a big event down in 5 Points. We'll tell you all about it. Open to the public. Want you to come. Free to the public. We're going to tell you all about that and get into a little bit. But we're going to remember Steve Tannehill, a little memorandum for Steve. And just, man, an incredible Gamecock. And we'll catch up with a good buddy of his, a business partner, Jeff O'Hara. Again, you know him on Twitter as CoxBy90. We'll catch up with him next. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. You've heard me talk about Mid-State Roofing, but I'm going to tell you about them again. Why? Because they need to be recognized for how they treat their customers. That's right. Phenomenal. For over 30 years, they've been taking care of their customers here in Columbia, down in Charleston, up in Greenville, over in Florence. Mid-State Roofing roofs the entire state. Shoot, they actually roof the world. Did you know that? True story, long story. I'll give you the short version. They roofed the world down in Myrtle Beach. You know, remember the old World building that was Planet Hollywood? They roofed that. They took care of it. So technically, they have indeed roofed the world. And they'll roof your business or your home and make sure that you stay dry and running for an exceptionally long time. But you got to give them a phone call. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. If the world will trust Mid-State Roofing, you should as well. So give them a phone call today and tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Oh, goody. I was worried I wouldn't get to break some news. Well, I'm not breaking the news. I'm repeating the news. Total difference. As a person who broke news once in his life, was terrified to go to the grocery store without a cell phone for fear I would miss news and that I would not break it and I would get yelled at. I would be very clear. I am not a media person anymore. I do not break news anymore. I do not try to break news anymore. I simply repeat what comes across the X or / Twitter machine. And roughly 15 minutes ago, Matt Zentz, who has done a great job. There's so many people trying to cover this portal. I feel bad for him. Good grief, do I feel bad for him. And Matt Zentz has reported on Twitter that South Carolina has signed Texas Tech kicker Upton Belafonte. He says, Chris Hummer and I have learned he was an all-MAC kicker at Buffalo before transferring to Texas Tech, made 24 of his 27 field goals in his career. It's got a nice picture of him kicking in stride, a couple tattoos there, one on the calf, one on the arm, kicking for Texas Tech. So South Carolina appears to have taken a kicker, Upton Belafonte. And we'll get more into this as I get more information. And I'll offer an opinion on that coming up. But let's talk a little bit about a great Gamecock. A guy that is one of my very first memories, and joining me now is his business partner, a good buddy, and a guy who's got a great event coming up this weekend. I'm getting to know him as Jeff, but you might know him as Cox by 90 on the X machine. Jeff O'Hara joining us this afternoon. And Jeff, let me ask you this first before we get into Steve Tannehill. You're in the weeds of it, man. This transfer portal and the money and everything that's going on, what is your take on how we see all of this evolving really here in 2026?
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on. Whew. I tell you, there's one job I don't want right now, and that's being the head of recruiting and our coaches having to deal with this portal because, as you've seen with the Washington quarterback, I don't even know if you sign an agreement if you still feel comfortable that they're coming back with how that's unfolding. So I will say this, the money I've heard about, players requesting is just astronomical. And I've followed NIL for many years now, and it seems like it's doubled every year. And the players that were asking for $100,000 back in the day are now up into $900,000 to $1 million. So it's crazy how it's evolved over the last 5 years.
We're all fans first. We're all fans. So this isn't your first rodeo. I sense with you that you have taken the stance of it stinks, but I've got to adapt. We have to adapt. If we want to play big ball, we have to. Is that how you kind of view it? Because I don't think any of us like what you just said, but it's how things are going, and you either play the game or you don't play the game.
Well, it's funny you say that. So I live in Charleston. I just pulled into town. I just walked in my one of my Cox by 90 houses here in Columbia, and I'm reminiscing about this. After the first year of NIL, we threw a massive Garnet Trust party here at this house. We had Spencer Rattler, Jaheim Bell, Wells. We had Stogner. Cam Smith. We had every football player here. We had a huge cookout, watched the SEC championship game. It was one of the more unique events you've ever seen, and it was an NIL fundraising event that we did at this house. And I remember then, the day after, after we're all sitting in the living room watching the SEC championship game, and you got Jaheim Bell, and you got Stogner, and you got all these guys, literally I think 3 or 4 of them were in the portal the next day. And Marshawn Lloyd, I'll say this. I had to adapt real quickly because I understood that overnight things could change, and they could be shaking your hand and signing balls one day and be at a house with, I think it was close to 200 Gamecock fans, and then the next day they're gone. And so you have to adapt because in this day and age, if you don't adapt, you'll get left behind. And I hate to even talk about that team in the upstate, but I saw that, Clemson has now signed more people in this 5-day span than they did all of the previous years combined in the portal. So if you don't adapt, you're going to get left behind. And that's what, we've continued to do. And, I think I'm seeing a lot of positive things on the portal right now that I think we're going to close strong.
Yeah, we'll continue to, again, monitor that. Real quick, South Carolina, again, that's coming across from Matt Zentz and Chris Homer. The Gamecocks have signed a kicker, according to them, Upton Belafonte from Texas Tech. I'll have more information on that coming up before we wrap up the program. But let's discuss a guy who, boy, NIL. What would have Steve Tannehill done with his personality, with that? I mean, can you imagine back in the decade, if you put Steve Tannehill in 2025, that personality, that ego, that mullet, that charisma, this was a one of a unique, one of a kind guy, Jeff.
I'm like crying and laughing at the same time because me and Steve had so many conversations about NIL. Again, just a guy that went all in when it came to helping our players. But we talked about that Carolina script hat with the ponytail and the mullet on the back of it, and we would joke at dinners. And anytime we talk, we'd always say, "Dang, I won." He goes, "I bet you I could have made $1 million off that hat these days." And shoot, he ain't lying. It probably could have been a lot more. And we just joke. He'd be like, "God dang," and you could say this stuff now. Everybody knows that players would get the handshake deals back in the day. He goes, but we wouldn't have to handshake it anymore. I mean, and we'd always joke because, he had what NIL would be, name, image, and likeness. You would want that guy representing your businesses because of the charisma he brought to the table, because of the energy that he had, because he's a winner. And he was a winner, and, he won in everything that he did. But, I mean, man, he could have – we always joke he could have been one of the biggest Gamecock NIL guys from a player standpoint.
What do you – I mean, aside from, what do you remember about him? A lot of people talk about – a lot of people that don't know him remember him as a player and saw the brashness and the cockiness, the arrogance. They didn't know Steve like you knew him as a business partner, as a friend, as a confidant. How do you remember him in that way?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question. And I go back to his service where he had his family, when we were at his service a couple weeks ago, and there was a bunch of former players there, and he actually had a former player of his who spoke from Union that did the whole, just ran the whole thing, and he talked about, how Steve was as a coach, and but then he got to the point, which is what really hit home for me, is that if you were a good friend to Steve, he always had your back, no matter what. And I think that hearing him say that, again, one of his former players that is growing up now, Steve was a guy that he would always have your back. And I think when I think about that, it's not just people to people, it wasn't just a business partner, it was as a friend. He was a great, great friend of mine. I mean, we talk all the time. We talk so much football. He was a great, great friend, and I'm going to miss him. But I'll tell you this, he would always have your back. And from a personal standpoint, I'd say he'd have my back, and he'd have a lot of people's backs. But he also had the University of South Carolina's back. And I think that that's what I always appreciated the most about him, was the fact that when you look at players, and I'm not going to, today's age is a little bit different, but Steve had the back of the University of South Carolina. He always was at games. He'd always be supporting in any which way that he can, especially during our time together. I mean, we would be able to throw a number of events. He always wanted to take care of our players as much as we could. But he would always have South Carolina's back. And, again, to be able to coach in the state of South Carolina, win multiple state championships, give back to players and help grow them and teach them, the person that led his, we would call it, I guess his funeral celebration, this kid shared the story that he was a Clemson fan all the way growing up, ended up attending South Carolina, but still said he was going to be a Clemson fan. And Steve told him, "No, I'm going to make you a Gamecock fan." And after that first year, he was a Gamecock fan. And he was wearing garnet and black. He was a converted Clemson fan. That's the type of impact Steve had on people. And it's just, I just can't say enough about the person and who he was, as being a great friend, a great coach. To me, I call him, he was, like a big brother to me. And, we lost a great one, but I'm truly going to cherish every moment that I got to spend with him. And I'll be so thankful for what he did to leave a lasting legacy for the University of South Carolina and being a Gamecock.
And the way to do that is to remember him. And we're going to have a great event this weekend down in 5 Points, CB18 and Breakers Live. It's open to the public, no fee, nothing like that. Now, there's some details here that need to be shared. It'll be starting at 4 o'clock. I'll say after the basketball game, because I'm saying go support Lamont Paris and the basketball team. Stay there to the final buzzer, pull them through, and then everybody head down to 5 Points. Give us some details on what's going on and how we can all get together this weekend in a place that Steve almost kind of made. 5 Points might have been there before Steve, but it wasn't the same after he left. I can guarantee you that. And we're going to do that this weekend, and we got about a minute and a half left. But tell everybody what's going on this weekend and how they can be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, starts at 4 p.m., CB18 Breakers Live. There's going to be a private ceremony with his former teammates and players at Group Therapy, the first establishment that he owned, and that'll open up to the public at 5:30 over there. But there's going to be a live – everybody's going to come together at the 5 Points Fountain at 5:45. And you know what? Nobody knows this yet, so I'm kind of doing some breaking news. But Patrick Davis is going to be playing there.
Cool.
And he is coming to celebrate and honor the life of Steve. So he's going to be playing a special musical tribute there, and that will be released on social media right after this. But he's coming in to play, and which is going to be awesome. So we're going to do a big celebration and cheers at the 5 Points Fountain, and then that will then follow into more bands. There'll be Jazzy playing, who was one of Steve's favorite bands. She's starting at 4:30. Brendan Roberts' band playing at 7 o'clock, and it's just going to be an all-out just celebration of just honoring a legend and a Gamecock and truly a cultural icon. So I hope everybody can make it after the basketball game, like you said, because we got to beat the Dogs at 2 o'clock and then come celebrate number 18 at 4.
And kid-friendly?
Kid-friendly, yes.
So bring kids, because help them remember getting a little choked up, Jeff. Help them remember a legacy. With this guy, we remember Steve. And I'll have more information. Jeff will get me more information on it. But, Jeff, I appreciate you joining us. Man, some great information. I look forward to catching up with you, getting you back on the program in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. Forever 218. Thank you.
Take care. Jeff O'Hara, you know him as Cox by 90. We'll come back. You're listening to The Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the leader, the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and it's all because they make sure your home and your business continues to stay dry and running long into the future. You just got to give them a phone call, and it doesn't matter when you give them a phone call. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Mid-State Roofing is there for you. So whether it's a high-rise or a hospital, manufacturing or industrial, Mid-State Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that keeps your operation dry and running long into the future. Again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You just need to give them a phone call. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. You give Mid-State Roofing a call. They'll help you and protect that roof with a maintenance contract. Visit them on the web as well, midstateroofing.com. If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. It is 2:35 on a Thursday, January the 8th. Hope you're doing well. Thank you again to Jeff O'Hara there. Again, you might know him on Twitter as CoxBy90. And if you haven't, follow him and check out that work. But he's putting on a great event down in 5 Points this weekend. Multiple establishments down there, CB18, Breakers Live, and Group Therapy. And you heard him mention also there will be an event kind of at the Fountain as well. And all of it is to honor Steve Taneyhill. And I said it without meaning it, and I do mean it, though. 5 Points was there before Steve. It was an institution. 5 Points was an institution before Steve, but it wasn't the same after Steve left. He left his mark. Steve was a Hall of Famer, and I can say this just from stories. I obviously during Steve's tenure at the University of South Carolina, I was 10 to 13 years old, but I've been around long enough to hear the stories, the legacy stories, not of Steve Tanner signing the Tiger Paw, not of Steve Taneyhill and South Carolina going over the top against Georgia and Brandon Bennett. I've been around long enough to hear the stories of Steve Taneyhill handling 5 points like it was a Clemson defensive back. No problems at all. So 5 points was never the same after Steve left, but an incredible human being, an incredible Gamecock. And I get a text in here, and this is a great idea. I probably should have promoted this a little bit earlier, but thank you to the texter. It says, tell everyone to wear mullet wigs to the basketball game. And, that does bring us back to the question of how do we honor Steve this coming season at a home football game. It doesn't work to just do an in-between plays, walk somebody out on the side. There needs to be a very big thing. Steve Taneyhill, for a lot of people that don't know, what he was trying to do behind the scenes to bring the university, the alumni, the former players together with the current administration, remarkable. And he wasn't getting some of the help that he maybe should have. And that was something that stuck in his craw that he wanted to see really come to fruition. He had a tweet out there after the Clemson game about players on the sideline. So what Steve loved this university. He loved this football program. And you're talking about a guy from Altoona, Pennsylvania, who, could have played 4 years and gone home and never had anything to do with the University of South Carolina. And he poured his heart and soul into not just the university itself, but the people here. And so if you can, after the basketball game on Saturday, come on down, hang out. You can't miss it. It'll be kind of all over 5 Points. The three institutions, again, that are really kind of be at is the Breakers Live, the CB18, and the Group Therapy. But, again, you heard Patrick Davis will be performing, and everything will be kind of centered around the Fountain out there. So it's kind of a big community-wide get-together. So come on down, bring kids. You heard Jeff, friendly, kid-friendly. Come on down and bring the kids and hang out for a few hours and share your favorite Steve Taneyhill stories down there in 5 Points, a place, again, that it fought Steve Taneyhill and lost. I can tell you that. Also fought Bill Gunner and probably lost too, but not in the same manner that Steve Taneyhill did. 803-404-6100. To the phone lines we go. Troy wants to weigh in. We were discussing NIL this afternoon. Troy, thank you so much for being patient and waiting on me here. I know you've been on hold. How you doing and what's on your mind?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for taking the call. I just wanted to ask something about these. I've coached sports around the Midlands for a long time, and I was all for these student athletes getting the NIL because they can't full load of schoolwork and athletics. There's no way for them to have a full-time job. But now that they decide to make them millionaires, why not get a hold of stuff and make these guys pay for their scholarship? So you open up scholarships or pay for their school, the tuition. If they make over $500,000 in NIL, then they pay for their tuition, and then you open up scholarships for kids that can't afford this, not getting NIL. That I mean, it just opens a whole nother door. I'd just like to hear your comments, and I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, and thank you for the phone call, and again, thank you for being very patient and staying on hold today. Is it something that should be looked at and addressed? Possibly. I was never in that situation. because I was not a college athlete. I don't know what it's like in any way, shape. Trust me, and my father will echo this and laugh, I assume, or cry, one of the two at his age. But I was nowhere near getting a scholarship. I don't even know. I couldn't even start to tell you how that process works. Like, is there just a deduction on your, like, I got nothing for any of y'all. On how scholarship money works. Like, do you look at your bill and there's a discount, or you just don't have it, or they added parking tickets to mine. My tuition was there was extra parking tickets on there, so I don't know how that works. But with that being said, there is so many things, Troy, and so many people out there that need to be addressed when it comes to NIL and transfer. I mean, is that something that we would feel comfortable doing? And you one of the caveats to your point, and I'm glad you made the caveat is like, well, if you make more than $500,000, because there'll be people like, well, this player doesn't get NIL, or this player's only getting maybe $10,000. They're not getting enough to cover. So you've got a great little point in there about, well, if you make a certain amount of money, now you're ineligible for your scholarship. You've got to actually pay for your scholarship, which, if you think about it, I'm just going to throw this there. I want you to marinate on this for a second, because a lot of you, not all of you, but a lot of you probably, when you had to decide a college, one of the things you had to look at was the amount for the tuition. I assume. Maybe I'm wrong on this. But you had to look at the tuition amount going out of state, going in state, what you're doing here. Can you imagine if a kid, so let's just hypothetically say a kid's making, let's just say that cap is $500,000. And look, kids are greedy, right? Kids are greedy. And you go, well, you can go to the University of South Carolina, and I'm throwing out figures. I have no clue what an education costs at South Carolina now versus Georgia or Florida or Ohio State. I got nothing. I can't even ballpark it to tell you correctly. I'm going to throw a number out there, and you're going to be like, it's not even close to right. And I'll be like, yeah, I don't know. But can you imagine a kid going like, well, I don't like it here. I'm going to transfer from the University of South Carolina. I'd like to go to Louisville or Purdue. And now looking at it and be like, wait a minute, Louisville costs, $22,000 a year, and Purdue costs $31,000 a year. Oh, I'm going to Louisville so I can save that extra. Now, like, can you imagine that? Plus, on top of that, whatever they're getting in transfer portal money, you're putting, all of a sudden, you're putting pressure on kids where they're not mentally able to handle it, and some of you, well, they should be able to. But the truth is, there's so much about what is happening in college football, and what is happening is so far out in front of the decision makers. It's lapped the decision makers. I mean, this is a tortoise and hare situation with things that are evolving regarding calendars, portals, dollar signs, dollar figures. You heard Jeff say it. I've heard it. There are rumors. Nobody's getting exact figures, but there are rumors floating around, if you listen close enough and you follow the right people. These kids in this portal are asking for ridiculous amounts of money and getting it. We can ask for it. I can go upstairs to management and ask for whatever I want. There's no, at least around here, I can't speak for your job. There's no law against me, and there's no law against Tree Babalade or Trovon Ball or any of these guys going to Shane Beamer and asking for a certain dollar figure. There's no, to my knowledge, I say this, I may be unemployed tomorrow. There's no law against me going upstairs and being like, I want this amount of money. Now, they can laugh in my face, and they can shoo me out of the office. They can tell me to get lost. That's their decision. But these kids are asking for it, and it appears they are getting it. Think about that for a second. Everybody's angry about it. Everybody's like, man, this is awful. Yep, here's the check. You're good to go. 803-404-6100. We'll wrap up the entire shindig today when we come back. It's the Halftime Show. What happened to our bumper music from yesterday, Dave, you know? Any idea?
Yeah, I didn't drag it in today.
Oh.
I don't know why these don't generate the right bumper music.
Okay.
Got to look into that.
Mm-hmm.
Still Jay Phillips' stuff.
Learning each and every day. Learn something a little new. Like today, we learned, if you're just tuning in, you're like, 4 minutes left of the halftime show. I wonder what they talked about. It's only worth listening for the final 4 minutes before Jay and Terry take over. I wonder what they talked about. One of the things we talked about was our super engineer. He's not a producer, super engineer. Some would say he's the best in the world. Some would say he's the best of all time. Randy, who was giving Tyler ideas for how to cure Tyler's throat and congestion. And by that, he was offering onions, cut up onions, put it in a glass bowl. I'm being very specific as to what Randy said. Put syrup in there and let it liquefy. To which someone texted me or texted in and said that the syrup does cause things to liquefy quicker. Are you familiar with this there, Chef Adair?
I do know that there's a lot of moisture in onions.
Okay. Oh, and cover it. Cover it, by the way.
Yeah, and did you say chop it up or just leave it as it is?
I didn't think to ask her these questions.
These are things I think about.
Mm-hmm.
Green glass, clear glass.
These are legitimate
up,
questions.
Not chopped up.
Yeah, I didn't think to ask how chopped it. No, I know that he didn't mean like just split an onion in half and put it in there. But, yeah, all right.
Does it matter if it comes from Publix or?
But he did seem very specific on the yellow onion. Was not specific on which store brand. He said something about Vidalia onions, I believe, too. I don't doubt.
Whole Foods.
I'm pretty.
Aldi.
I don't know. So we discussed that. We covered that for you. So if you've been feeling a little under the weather, onions, syrup, liquefy, teaspoons of your onion syrup now. And apparently you're just going to be running around like a brand new man or woman after said medicine is remedied. So keep that one in the back pocket for whenever you're feeling bad. We discussed that. We discussed the college football playoff tonight. Joe Madden coming on earlier today. You can check that out. We got that on our podcast page. Miss Madden, phenomenal job. You can follow her on Twitter at Joe Madden Sports. You can follow her if you haven't already. And you can get her picks. She is with Wager Talk and Betting Pros. Does a phenomenal job. Actually also put out a great video today on the firing of Mike McDaniel of the Dolphins. But Miss Madden earlier today took Mississippi tonight, said sprinkle a few dollars on the money line, and took Oregon tomorrow night. She went with the Packers on Saturday night in the playoff game, and she went with the Rams plus 10.5. She also gave some picks for the Sunday games. You can go and catch those on our podcast, but thank you to her. Brad Crawford joined us at 1:15 today, and we've revisited some of the transfer portal things and the coordinator discussion for the University of South Carolina hiring Kendall Briles and what it meant. Thank you to him for joining us. And then just this hour, Jeff O'Hara, and again, you might know him as Cox by 90, joined us to celebrate and remember the life and times of Steve Taneyhill. And again, a great event taking place down in 5 Points this coming weekend. They'll gather at the Fountain as well and do a celebration for Steve Taneyhill. That'll be after the basketball game on Saturday. And again, I'll get back into my emotional, drama-ridden plea tomorrow for you to attend to the basketball game Saturday against Georgia, 2 o'clock. We'll have some news and notes on that tomorrow, getting you ready for that basketball game, a big one over at Colonial Life Arena, 2 o'clock. Again, we'll have coverage for you at 1:30 coming up on Saturday for that 2 o'clock tip-off. And also a reminder, 7 o'clock tonight, women's basketball. And again, that'll be on B106.7 for those of you looking for that game tonight. So again, thank you to Cox by 90, Jeff O'Hara. Thank you to Brad Crawford. Thank you to Joe Madden for joining us. College football playoff tonight. I'm going Miami. I'm going to take the Canes. I like those defensive ends, man. I like those defensive ends. I expect them to wreak havoc. Give me the Canes tonight. If I was to bet you a soda from the vending machine downstairs, I would probably actually take the hook, take the 3.5 with Mississippi. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be an intense game. I think this is going to be a great college football playoff game. I am anti-Hurricanes. I'm about to contradict myself. I am not a Miami fan. I think they're obnoxious, they're loud, they're annoying. I can say that. I got a brother-in-law that's a Miami fan. I'm entitled to say that. It's in the book. I've read the rules. I'm allowed. I'm good. He also lives in Raleigh and doesn't listen. I'm not a Miami fan. I want Miami to win. Bill, that's stupid. How can you say that? It's fun to pull against Miami. It is fun to pull. A villain in college football. I, right now, have talked myself into Indiana